So, why would people buy a Royal Enfield? Is it because of performance? Probably not, unless you're talking about going off-road with the Himalayan. Is it about heritage? Perhaps. But most people will buy a Royal Enfield because they look good. And the bike that we have today is the best looking Royal Enfield ever. But how does she ride? Is it a real scrambler? On today's episode of Beyond the Ride, let's find out if the Royal Enfield Bear 650 can go, or if it's all show. Most RE fans would probably choose the more classic-looking bikes, or maybe the Himalayan. But prior to the Bear, my favorite RE was the Interceptor 650. Which we featured on MotoDeal several years ago. The Interceptor was, and still is, a great canvas for custom builders. And if I were to customize the Interceptor, this is probably how I'd do it. It looks great, and this is my favorite colorway. Powering the bike is the same 648cc parallel twin that you can find on the Interceptor, Continental GT, and the newer 650s of RE. It puts out 47 horsepower at 7,250 RPM and 56.5 Nm of torque at 5,150 RPM. It's got 43mm Showa inverted fork with 130mm of travel up front and Showa twin tube shocks with 115mm of travel and preload adjustment for the rear. For the brakes, you get 320mm front and 270mm rear discs with dual channel ABS. And for the wheels, there's also a little bit different than Interceptor. You get 19 inches up front and 17 for the rear. The tires are a little bit more off-road leaning, at least compared to the Interceptor, but these are still more on-road tires. Now, RE made this bike a little bit different compared to the older Interceptor. The subframe is a little bit higher with some rugged reinforcement. The wheels are a little bit bigger and the tires are slightly more aggressive. The suspension is kind of more off-road friendly as well. Now, something I probably would have added, I would have liked to see the pipe up here just to give it more of a scrambler vibe. You get LEDs all around and an updated dash as well, which we've seen on the up-spec Gorilla and the Hima 450. Now, I do love the way this dash looks. In fact, I've been a real fan of this thing because it still does have some sort of classic appeal, but with modern-day function. So it does have, of course, trip 1, trip 2, fuel range, you can have fuel consumption, voltage, nice information here, and it's the display is quite good. And then on this side, you can turn off the rear ABS if you decide to go on some light trails. Now, because it is a scrambler, it's meant to go on some off-road, at least off-road capable, which is why the seat height is a little bit on the higher side, taller side compared to that of the Interceptor and the Continental GT 650. I'm 5'6" with a 764mm inseam. The seat height is 830mm. And to give you an idea of what that looks like, yeah, it's a little bit taller, or I should say significantly taller than the Interceptor 650. Now, the wet weight of the bike is 216 kilograms, which is a little bit on the heavier side. However, outside of the Gorilla, all REs are kind of on the heavier side anyway. But imagine taking this out on a trail and then dropping it all day, and then you have to pick it up several times. When you go off-road, you'd probably be a little bit tired because of that weight. The fuel tank capacity is 13 liters, and you can get roughly 22 kilometers per liter depending on how you ride. So let us do a quick sound test for y'all. So when you first sit in the saddle, the bike does feel beefier than the Interceptor. It's actually pretty significant if you ask me. it feels bigger and more substantial, which makes sense because it is taller, as it can take on, some pretty, some slight rough terrain, I should say. The seat is not super plush, and that might be a little bit of an issue for longer rides. It's still okay, but it's not as plush as that of the Interceptor or even the Continental GT and some of the other 650s. The suspension is okay for somebody my weight. I'm about 150 pounds. Even when we took this on some off-road sections during the Philippine launch, some people complained about the suspension. They said it was pretty harsh, but they were bigger than as I am, and they're heavier than me as well. But for somebody close to my weight, 150 pounds or so, it should be okay. On the road, there should be no problem or no issues with the suspension. But yes, we did take this off-road a little bit. Nothing too hardcore. We took it in on some light trails in Tanay. It had, there was a lot of mud. There was a lot of sections there that nothing too difficult. In fact, I think most motorcycles would have been able to go through what we did. But I think this one handled it pretty well. I think it's a bike that can handle roads like that. Roads like just fire roads, gravel roads. But if you're gonna go up hardcore mountains, this one is gonna be an issue. But for nice light trails, I think this is pretty good, if you ask me. It's also something that, when you look at the clearance of the bike, it probably can't take anything much more difficult than what we did in Tanay. But for what we did in Tanay, I absolutely enjoyed this motorcycle. Now, it is a little bit on the heavier side, just like I said earlier, like most Royal Enfields. But that's typical, that's normal. I mean, you don't really feel the weight of the bike when you're riding it around, or even when you're moving it in the garage or in the parking area. You will feel the weight of the bike if you drop it. Some people did drop it during the launch, and when they had to pick it up, I could just imagine if you had to pick it up several times on one trail ride, by the end of that, you're probably going to be a little bit exhausted. Now, riding in traffic is okay. If you can handle the height of the bike, it should not be an issue whatsoever. I mean, the Interceptor, the Continental GT, and the other 650s of RE handles the traffic and city riding perfectly, if you ask me. Now, the 650s of Royal Enfield have always been a personal favorite of mine. I don't know, maybe because one of the first, or if not the first motorcycle we ever shot on MotoDeal was the Royal Enfield Continental GT 650. And then soon after that, we did the Interceptor, but I've always enjoyed the 650s. Yes, there's some quirky things here and there. The brakes are not phenomenal, although I would say the brakes of this bike is better than that of the older model 650s. But overall, I think that Royal Enfield definitely has a winner, or with the 650s. I thought they hit it out of the park, and because of that, they were able to come up with other models for the 650 line. They had the Classic, they had the Shotgun, of course this one. This is my personal favorite. I think this looks better. The others are a little bit more classic vibe to it. They're a little bit more, if you ask me, maybe an older demographic. They're more cruisers, some of them. But I really like this. I really enjoy the look of this. Just like I mentioned a while ago, maybe a higher pipe would have given it really that ultimate scrambler feel. But aside from that, I don't think I would touch anything in this motorcycle. It looks great. It absolutely looks great the way it is. So what's the competition of the Bear 650? And honestly, it's kind of hard to figure out what the competition is. I mean, the bigger Triumph Scramblers, the Street Scrambler, it's bigger. It's a 900cc motorcycle, and it's also a little bit more in the premium pricing. The smaller Triumphs, the 400s, that's a little bit too small. I'm not too sure. I mean, you look at the Ducati Scramblers, that's also a little bit different than this. That's an 800cc motorcycle. This is 650. So I'm not sure if there's one, unless you can consider the CF Moto CLX. I know they have a Scrambler version of the CLX, and that might be it. That might be the closest competition. And what's funny, because the CF Moto CLX series is also similar in price of the Interceptor, of the older Interceptor, and that was considered to be somewhat competition. But because one is more classic, the other one's more neo-retro, I wouldn't really say that they're competitors. But I guess because of the price tag and maybe the displacement, that's probably why they would be competitors. But aside from that, I don't really consider them direct competitors, to be honest with you. But if you can think of one, if you guys can think of a motorcycle that would be the direct competitor of this, let us know in the comment section below. So just like most Royal Enfields, I would recommend this motorcycle. I just wouldn't use it for some hardcore trails, for some really long rides, but for day-to-day use, for some nice little back roads, and especially, of course, with the condition of the roads here in the Philippines, I definitely would choose this bike. And plus, I mean, look at it. It's absolutely stunning, isn't it? It's absolute head turner. Now, the starting price tag of this bike for the normal paint job is 445,000 Philippine pesos. This one right here goes for 449,000 Philippine pesos. And then there's a special paint job as well that goes for 450 something. And in my opinion, that's actually a pretty good deal for the type of machine that this is. For more information about this bike and other MCs out there, log on to www.motodeal.com.ph. My name is Jinno. Thanks for watching this episode of Beyond the Ride.